Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how to email a college coach. So if you're wanting to get recruited and you want to get noticed but you don't know the best way to go about emailing a coach, continue watching this video. So I will say, emailing college coaches and recruiting is all kind of like a skill, and it's really not hard to learn, but once you master it, it will get the ball rolling for sure. So first of all, before you can even send out an email, you need to figure out what schools you want to target. So, you don't want to limit yourself to just one type of school or one type of program, state, whatever it is, unless you are set in those other parameters. Meaning, like, if you've already decided that you want to stay in-state and you want to be close to home / your family, then that limits your options, which is totally fine. But if you have that already into account, then, like, that's totally fine. But if you're not, don't limit yourself to just, one thing. Like, for example, I'm from Alabama, but I branched out and I was okay with going out of state and like away from my family. So that means that I was talking to schools out in Washington State, California, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio, like just all over the map, right? Because I wanted to go somewhere to play. And that can also be even more pinpointed into like what kind of level you're looking at, what major you want to go into. That's very important because, for example, my first school did not work out for me because I was a business major, and the way that they taught the curriculum at the business school just was not for me. It wasn't what I wanted out of my college education, so I ended up transferring. So I wish I would have known that before I went there, but yeah, that's definitely something that's really important, is to know your major and honestly pick a school more based on your major than volleyball. Because I promise you, that was a mistake that I made, and that is very important because you're there to get an education. You're not there just to play volleyball. Like, your volleyball is the means to an end. You playing volleyball is just a way to pay for your school. So it's not your sole purpose of being there. Now that you have your list all picked out and kind of sorted, you want to go on the athletic website. And you can usually always find either a phone number or an email address for the head coach, assistant coach, or recruiting coordinator if that school has one. Now, who would I email first? I would try to email the recruiting coordinator because that is, their job, and they're always probably going to be looking out to see different recruiting emails, and they're always going to be like, looking for that kind of stuff. Now, if you email like an assistant coach or a head coach, it might get lost in their email because that's not exactly like their primary concern at that point in the recruiting game. Like, they're not exactly combing through emails every day to look for recruiting at the higher level. Now, if it's like a lower level school, they might not have a recruiting coordinator on their staff, which is perfectly fine. So the head coach or the assistant coach is the recruiting coordinator. So it really depends. But yeah, if someone's listed as a recruiting coordinator, I would go for them first. Now let's get into what you should say in your email. So first and foremost, you need to have a good subject line. That's what captures people's attention. And that's what keeps them either from clicking on your email or clicking off of it or just disregarding it completely. So that means that you need something that's going to capture their attention. So for example, what I would put on my subject line, I usually put like, let's say when I was in high school, because that's more relatable to people. I would say I'm 5'11", but I would say I'm 6 foot because, is that lying? Sure. But like, will it get me places? Yes. So I always stretched an extra inch on my height. You don't have to do that. Like, you really don't have to do that. And I'm not saying you should do that, but that's just something I did, and I'm just going to be honest about it. So I would say 6 foot OH, which stands for outside hitter / MB / middle blocker / OPP, opposite, because that's what I played in high school, was all those positions. And I would say approach jump, so APPR period 10-1 or 9-10 or 9-11, whatever it was. That was my my vertical jump or my approach jump, whatever you want to call it. So I would put that all in the subject line. And usually that is pretty eye-catching. It's like, oh, 6 foot outside who can almost touch 10 feet or can touch 10 feet. Like, ooh, people love that stuff. So that is what I use for my main subject line. And now let's move into like the body of the email, because that's really what the important part is. First, you need to grab people's attention, and then you have to really deliver in your body of your email. So first of all, you need to introduce yourself. And keep it brief because you don't want to, write like a whole 3-page paper about like why you want to go to the school, your stat, and like, no, because we have to keep things concise, okay, and short but full of information, and that is sometimes hard to deliver, but it's just that you don't want to waste people's time. And two, college coaches are very, very busy people. Like, they're always on the recruiting trail, like always. So you need to capture their attention and tell them why they should pick you and why you want to go there in a very, very, very concise way. And they'll appreciate that, trust, because they are, you know, limited for time. So after you introduce yourself, like, I would just say like my name, where I'm from, and what year I'm graduating high school. Oh, that's what I forgot. You want to put your class in your subject line as well. So I was class of 2017. So at the end of my little subject line, I would put C/O17, and that just stands for class of 2017. So that way people would know if I was a junior in high school, sophomore, senior, whatever, so they could know. Because that's very important, because, you know, recruiting doesn't really start until you're like your junior year of high school, so it's very important that they know what year you actually are. So yeah, once you get the introduction out of the way, you want to kind of list your stats. I was lucky enough to have my stats from high school, from like my junior season, my senior season. I think it was like on Max Preps or something like that. So I had my stats. So I wrote down like how many kills per set I averaged for, let's say, my junior year, digs per set, blocks per set, all that. I listed it just because that's a nice little extra thing to put in the email. If you don't have your stats, that's totally okay. Like, you don't need them, but I just thought it was a little something extra I could sprinkle in there, so I did it. I would literally list it out and be like, my stats are, and I'd be like height, weight, approach jump, block jump, positions played, and then I would move on into like awards. I'd be like, I had this award from high school, I did this in club, like all those little things that kind of make it like a resume of sorts. This is a resume, honestly, in my opinion. It's like a volleyball resume, essentially. But yeah, those are like all like the personal stats and accolades I would include in my email. And once again, if you don't have any of those things, it's totally fine. People get recruited with no awards. Awards really don't matter. It's just a way to embellish your resume. So after that, and mind you, like all this information I'm saying is probably gonna fit into like a paragraph. Like, I'm keeping it very brief. And then in my second little paragraph, I would explain why I wanted to go to that school and why I have interest in that school outside of the volleyball program. Because, you know, coaches aren't looking for girls who are just there to play volleyball in most cases, unless they're like insanely good, it doesn't even matter. But most coaches aren't looking for that, because they want someone who is a student and an athlete, not just an athlete, because, you know, if you flunk out of college, that looks so bad for them, so they don't want to even take on that kind of liability. If you're any kind of liability, they really do not want to mess with you like that. It's very important to include like your grades or your GPA or anything like that. You don't have to be like, oh, I was on the honor roll, that doesn't really matter. You could include that if you wanted to, if you can fit it in there, but truthfully, like, all you really need is like your GPA. That's what really matters, because GPA matters when you're getting into college, just like on the admission side of things. Like, for example, like I went to Southern Miss and I wanted to go there because they have a good business program, and that was my major. Boom. Like, that was pretty much it. Like, and I knew that they had a good like alumni tree, if that makes sense. That's also why I went to LSU for graduate school, because I knew I would be connected after the fact, because I went to LSU. Like, LSU is a brand type of thing. So that's important to think about. You want to just really like kind of put it out there why you want to go to the school. Like, say like the school you want to go to has a great nursing program and you want to be a nursing major. Perfect. Write that down. Put it in the email. And then at the end, basically, you just want to thank them for their time and just leave your contact information, like your email address and your phone number, so they can get back in contact with you. Also, if you have any of your coaches' phone numbers, your club's phone number, I would include that at the bottom, just because those are like your references, if you will. So I would definitely include those for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope it was helpful, and I'll see y'all in my next one. Bye.